Good morning, everyone.
Recording in progress.
Okay, great. Thank you. I want to bring the Washoe County Regional Animal Services Advisory Board to order. It's great to see everyone this morning. We are going to start this morning with a call to order and a determination of quorum. So, Madam Clerk.
Naomi Dewar, Chair.
Here.
Trudy Anderson, Vice Chair. Or Trudy Broussard, Vice Chair.
Present.
Clara Andriola.
Present.
Dias Dixon is absent. And Jill Fisher.
Present.
Julie McMahon.
Present.
And Joe Rodriguez is absent.
Is it possible he's online? I know he's attended a few times online.
No, he is not currently online.
All right. And next we will, so we do have a quorum. Is that?
Yes, we have a quorum.
All right, thank you so much. And I'm going to ask Commissioner Clara Andriola to lead us in the pledge, if you would.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Okay, well done. We are now going to have our attorney, I believe it is, provide some instructions for providing public comment via Zoom and telephone. So if you will.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kobe Burnett for the record. This meeting will be held in the Commission chambers and via Zoom. To attend this meeting via Zoom, please log into the Zoom webinar at the link found on the first page of today's posted agenda. You can also join the meeting by typing zoom.us into your computer browser, clicking Join a Meeting on the Zoom website, and entering the webinar ID 962-1080-8231. Alternatively, you can join the meeting by telephone only by dialing 1-669-900-9128 and entering that same webinar ID and pressing pound.
All right, thanks. Is there more?
There's a little bit more. Members of the public may submit public comment either by attending the meeting in person, attending the meeting via webinar or teleconference, or attending by telephone only. To provide public comment via Zoom teleconference, log into the Zoom webinar at the link and utilize the raise hand feature during any public comment period. To provide public comment via telephone only, press *9 to raise hand and *6 to mute or unmute. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And now I'll ask our clerk if we have any public comment.
There is no public comment at this time.
Okay, and that's both in the room and online?
Yes, it is.
And just as a reminder, if anyone is joining us online, to please raise your hand. There's a raise hand bar. I think it's on the phone only. I think did you say it's *6 or *9?
On the phone, it would be... Yeah, it's *9 to raise hand. It would be *6 to mute or unmute yourself.
Yeah, okay, so *9. All right, well, we'll close out public comment and we'll move on to approval of the minutes. And these are for May 16th, 2025.
Move to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, thank you. So we have a move from Ms. Andriola and a second from Ms. Broussard. Are there any emendations or changes to the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. We're going to turn our attention to item 6, and this is the director's report. For anyone watching online, you can download the presentation on the Animal Services website, and we'll turn it over to our director, Cheyenne Schul. Welcome.
Good morning, advisory board members. Cheyenne Schul for the record. Thank you for being here. We are presenting today on statistics from Q4, fiscal year 25, as a reminder before we get started. In April of 2025, I had the opportunity to attend the State Association Conference from National Animal Care and Control Association in Las Vegas. This group of 120 individuals from 39 states across the country got together to discuss specific things that relate to us in animal control. We talked about challenges, successes, and areas that we really could lean on one another to share some of our experience. It was a reminder coming away from that conference of how important it is for animal welfare industry leaders to lean on one another and talk about things that we really could help one another with in our states individually. Even though Nevada doesn't have a state association, I was invited to attend to represent Northern Nevada, which I felt like was an honorable place to be and to share that information with what we're experiencing in Northern Nevada. Southern Nevada representatives were also present at the conference. And one of the themes of that particular conference was, how can we set the stage as leaders? How can we collaborate together, come together, and be representatives for our profession? We talked about legislation. We talked about disaster preparedness. We talked about return to home programs, which, as you guys all know, we have a great return to home program here in Northern Nevada. But we also talked about what are some of the things that we can do nationally to help support our jurisdictions. And so one of the things that I brought home from that conference is I heard a presentation from ASAR, which is Animal Search and Rescue. And it's a group that comes to the aid of animal control organizations by request during disasters to help with field-specific services. And I'm happy to say that we went through a formal agreement process with them, and we are under agreement with them to call upon them if we need them. And I'm going to have some staff come present in our next meeting to talk a little bit more about that agreement and some of the other things that we've been working on related to disaster response, because we've been working really hard to expand the resources that we have to help us if we have a disaster in our region. And because we're such a small department, it's really challenging to provide resources for emergency evacuation, emergency sheltering, as well as providing our day-to-day service on Longley and field services. So I'm looking forward to having them in our pocket, so to speak, to help come to our aid and be a force multiplier if we ever need them.
Cheyenne, I wanted to ask a question about that. Do we have like a volunteer corps that's trained for something like this? Or if we don't have one, is that something we could look at?
So essentially, Cheyenne, for the record, this is sort of filling that role. These would be volunteers from other animal control organizations that are already trained. They've already gone through the training that would be specific to emergency response, and we would essentially be able to plug and play them into our jurisdiction.
But they are coming in from other states.
They could be coming in from other states or surrounding neighboring counties or communities. It depends on where the volunteers come in from.
Okay. Well, I know one of our members has a long history with the Red Cross, and I just wondered, they both deploy nationally, internationally, but they also have a local cadre of people that are trained. And I just wondered, they're not professionals, they're volunteers. I actually was a volunteer at one point. And it just could be a good thing to have other people to expand your forces. And I'd just love to see us talk about it a little bit, besides the trained professionals who are getting paid to do this job.
Cheyenne, for the record, this would be voluntary. There are no exchanges of money, just to make sure that's made known. So these are volunteers just under specific professional backgrounds. But I'm happy to plant a seed with this board to let you know that we'll be coming back in the future to talk about our volunteer program, which is currently under revamp. And we have plans in place to train volunteers to help us with emergency sheltering when we have disasters. And so Quinn and her team are putting that together currently, and so that will be in a future meeting. We'll talk a lot more about that.
Yeah. Did you want to say?
So it is interesting. I was going to ask a question. I was going to kind of wait, but since we're in it, I'm going to go ahead and if it's...
Yeah, go for it.
I really appreciate the fact I'm not familiar. It'll be great to learn more about this organization. But I do think the communication is really essential when you're in any type of, whether it's small or medium or large, whatever that particular event or incident is in the community. And I think and I know I've had this discussion with you, so I'm just going to put it out again. Building in the infrastructure for communication during any type of incident that requires response so that it's chaotic. I mean, when there's a disaster, it's not planned, and that makes it a point in time where everyone's just at their place doing whatever, and now they have to move quickly in one way or another. So I think the communication is also really important on whatever that incident is. It isn't always required, as you know, depending on the situation, but knowing where to find that information. So as an example, so perimeter, for instance, is something that we all use. There's Washoe County right now is obviously looking at, it has been a way that you'll automatically be, have alerts. So there's all these systems, right, that are already in place. But animal services, I think, is missing that opportunity, or at least I'm not aware of it. And I think the more we can make people aware of either where to go or have it built in to whatever the jurisdictional, whether it's through the REOC, the Regional Emergency Operations Center, or whatever those joint incident commands, always animal services is part of that. So it's really exciting to hear disaster preparedness as part of the dialogue with this particular topic with animal services. So I really do think it's important, just to piggyback off of the chair's comment, it will be interesting. ASAR may already have a program that reaches out to professionals like the American Red Cross and others, CERT, others. There are plenty of organizations that are well trained with volunteers that can be deployed on a split second that could in fact incorporate the animal services. The American Red Cross has already built in a functioning piece with how to address animals in any type of incident. So I just think it's really great, and I really think that it was a wonderful opportunity to have you there. And I think it'd be great if there are things, as you're mentioning, as you've returned, what those are, and to keep everybody apprised. So I'll just end it by going back to my start, and that is if we can incorporate automatically a way to communicate through the emergency system that's already in place, that would be great.
Okay, cool. Well, we're doing what we're supposed to do, which is to advise you and give you some ideas from our own personal experiences and opportunities. So, did anyone else have a comment on this topic, or we'll move on? Okay, why don't you move on? Cheyenne.
Well, Cheyenne, for the record, I just did want to follow up on those comments to let you all know that we have a plan for the next meeting to provide an overview of all of the intensive work that Animal Services has been doing on the back end related to disaster response, and we've been doing a ton of work. So I'm excited to bring that to you guys in a package next meeting, talking about the agreements that we've signed on, as well as our internal training, communication structures, equipping our trailers, and all of the stuff that we've been working on. It's incredible, the amount of work my team has been doing to be prepared. And we'll always be caught off guard. That's the nature of disaster. So all we can do is do our best to be prepared for the unexpected. So, but we are doing our very best and putting in a lot of time and resources into that project.
Right.
So
Thanks.
So subsequent to that conference that I attended for the Animal Care and Control Association, I attended the Animal Care Expo, which is the Humane World for Animals conference. It's the largest conference in our industry with over 2,500 attendees from across the globe. It's an opportunity for those in our industry to network, to learn about best practices, to gain ideas and tips, and to connect with others that are from all walks of animal welfare, some in my level of leadership and some that are just beginning. And so it's a great opportunity. Myself and 2 of my employees were able to attend this on the tail end of that same week that I attended the Animal Care and Control Association conference. Some of the things that we learned from this conference are tips and program details about volunteer programs. And because our program is under revamp, it was really helpful for my outreach staff to be able to be present and to learn and to talk to others about what programs have worked for them, software ideas, and things. And so we'll be excited to bring forward updates about that volunteer program to this board in the future. Secondarily to that, we learned about new neonate kitten and puppy vaccination protocols for shelter animals. That was another solid takeaway from that conference that I brought back, and our medical team integrated it and implemented it into our medical program for the animals that are in our care, not for public animals, but the animals that are in our shelter. So because these conferences, they do cost resources, they do take us away from our day jobs, I feel that it's important to bring back what were the values and the takeaways that our staff do learn and bring back for us to, potentially consider for implementation into our programs or region. So my particular feeling about this conference is lots of great information, lots of sharing, and definitely very worthwhile for animal welfare professionals to attend. Moving on to the statistics. So once again, we are looking at quarter 4. Over the same preceding 4 years, same quarter. This chart represents all animals that Animal Services received. So from the bottom up, we're looking at cats, dogs, and others for a total of just under 3,000 animals last quarter. We have a slight increase there of approximately 3% over the quarter prior last year. But one notable statistic and increase is the 53% intake increase in small animals or other animals, and those are fish, guinea pigs, mice, hamsters, pocket pets. I think I alluded to this at the last meeting and maybe even the prior meeting. We're seeing a number of abandonment and evictions where these animals are left behind. We've also had a high number of guinea pigs and animals, small pocket pets, left out in front of our shelter. And so these particular animals we're seeing an increase in, and they're not necessarily always easy to place. So when you get 53 guinea pigs in one shot, the Humane Society is, scrambling for places to transfer and to put those animals up for adoption. It makes it really hard on the team to provide outcomes for that many when they come in at one time. But I thought that was a notable statistic to share with you all. This next slide is all animals, all cats and dogs impounded with microchips. And so as you all have heard me stand up here and talk about the value of our free microchip program, one statistic that I wanted to highlight is that we saw a slight increase in the number of cats that came into our care that were microchipped already. And for those of you who've been on the board for at least the last 3 meetings, we've been heavily focusing on cats and cat owners and the importance of microchipping your cat, because if they get loose, the likelihood of you being reunited is pretty slim if they're not identified in some way. And so plan for the unplanned is what we're preaching to our community. So we saw a little bit of an increase, up to 13% of cats coming in over same quarter last year at 11%. So we're celebrating that because it's a win for us. Dogs are still seeing a pretty high percentage at approximately 50% coming in already microchipped, which is incredible. That's our strongest tool to reunite pets. And so we'll celebrate that as well. That's definitely a notable statistic. This slide is reflecting all outcomes of animals that came in quarter 4 over the same quarters 4 years preceding. The total number of outcomes were 2,505 animals, reflecting the outcome for each animal that came into Animal Services care. So from top down, we're looking at 15 animals that died while in care, 136 animals were euthanized, 8 animals had other outcomes, so it could have been a snake that was caught and brought in and we released it. 966 animals were reunited, 1,374 were transferred, and then we have a breakout of our most frequent transfer partners with Nevada Humane Society, Options Veterinary Care, and then that lump of other rescues, and then Rescue and the SPCA of Northern Nevada stepping in to transfer animals as well for a total of 2,505 outcomes last quarter. Animals that were reunited in the field. This is probably my favorite slide. I love to share this, the work that the field staff do out in the field to make sure animals don't have to stay with us if it's not necessary. So the graph depicts animals that were picked up in the field and their outcomes. So out of 768 animals picked up in the field, 288 were reunited without a stay at Animal Services. So again, emphasizing the importance of saving those taxpayer dollars, saving those valuable kennel spaces, and getting those animals back home where they belong is really an attribute that we celebrate, and give kudos to our field team for researching microchips, for calling and texting individuals when they pick up an animal that has identification, and meeting people in the field where they are to get those animals back home. These are the animals that were brought to us over the counter and their outcomes. So we are looking at 977 animals that came in over the counter, and 267 of those were reunited after they came in. And so, as I've talked about in the past, once an animal comes into the shelter and there are barriers to getting them back home, whether it be money, whether it be that the person doesn't know where to look or they're afraid to come in, their likelihood of being redeemed once they've been impounded significantly decreases. And then there's also those that don't want their animal back. And so they might have gotten picked up as a lost or stray animal, and the owner's not coming to look for them. So that's why we see that disparity in those reunification percentages after they've been impounded. This slide looks at dog transfers to rescue partners and breaks out the number of transfers to each partner. During quarter 4, 376 dogs went to Nevada Humane Society. 16 dogs went to other collective rescue groups. 25 went to rescue, and 12 went to the SPCA of Northern Nevada for a total of 429 transfers. This slide looks at cat transfers, and we had a whopping number of cats come through our facility. 759 of those went to Humane Society, Nevada Humane Society. 10 of those went to Options. 7 went to that collective group of other, and 12 went to the SPCA of Northern Nevada for a total of 788 transfers of cats. This slide takes a look at our euthanasia of dogs. And I'm going to kind of go through the outcomes again to refresh everyone and what they mean. So the blue color is animal disease lab. So anytime we have an animal bite that owner signs over, or it's perhaps a bat, we send it to the lab for testing for rabies. So that's what that color indicates. It doesn't look like we had any from last quarter. Purple is behavior. So again, we'll have those dogs that are expressing either human or animal aggression. Those dogs are in purple. We did 43 of those last quarter. And then royal blue is bite. So as you all know, we do quarantine for animal bites. And sometimes the owner does not want them back, and sometimes there isn't an owner. And so those animals don't generally get put back into the community if they meet that dangerous threshold, and those would be euthanized. The olive green color is that court order. Those are a rare occasion that we have a vicious dog that's been declared by an administrative hearing, that the hearing officer declares this dog too dangerous to be put back in the community and orders us to euthanize it. We did not have any of those last quarter. And then the blue-green color is no rescue resources. There were 5 of those last quarter. Again, as a reminder, what that means is those are dogs with minor behavior that we were not able to identify or rescue that had the resources to rehabilitate the dog and put it into a home. And there were 5 of those last quarter that we unfortunately had to euthanize. And then red is owner-requested euthanasia. We don't take in owner requests. However, generally, there are animals that we pick up sometimes that are injured. Maybe they got hit by a car. They might have been a bite animal that has ended its quarantine, and the owner does not want it back. And so they sign paperwork to request us to euthanize it at the end of their stay. And then last but not least, the navy color blue. It's hard to distinguish the 2 colored blues there, but that is our quality of life, and we had 13 of those. And what I have asked for, because it tends to be a confusing topic, what does quality of life mean to our department? And it can mean something different to other animal welfare departments, but our medical and shelter team came up with this definition for quality of life. It's the total well-being of an individual animal, taking into consideration their physical, social, and emotional aspects of their life. And so given resource limitations, given whatever health or behavioral thing that they might be challenged with, sometimes those quality of life decisions are made because it's the best interest of the animal. And we had 13 of those last quarter. Cat euthanasia, we're looking at a total of 54 for quality of life. Same definition would apply to all 54 of those cats that came into us that our medical team opted to euthanize for varying reasons. And again, you're going to see this number look higher than quarters preceding because we didn't have our own veterinarian prior to 2023, I believe is when our vet came on. Is that right? 2023? 2024. I'm wrong. So we're going to see those numbers slightly uptick because we have our own veterinarian now that can help us make those decisions and streamline the pathway plan for those animals instead of sending them out to another veterinarian. I had to throw this picture in there. This is a dog that came through our shelter that our shelter staff have been having fun torturing them with costumes so that they can appeal to our rescue partners to please transfer these dogs. They're actually really cute. But anyway, field services, moving on. We have had one animal service officer on maternity leave for the last few months, which has definitely left us short in the field. And as you all know from hearing me talk in previous meetings, every vacancy, because we're a small department, creates quite a void for us. And we have 7-day-a-week service delivery, and so it becomes challenging. But you'll also notice that we have the highest number of field service calls over 4 preceding years, same quarter. So our community's growing, calls for service are no surprise increasing. So what we're looking at is from the bottom up, 420 calls were for bite investigations, 383 noise complaints, 1,263 various calls, which kind of encompasses all of those other calls. And no surprise, 2,250 stray or loose animal calls, and then 330 unrestrained animal calls, and 737 animal welfare calls. So busy out there in the field, trying to keep up, trying to ensure that we're providing service to our community, but sometimes we do face challenges.
Cheyenne, I had a question on this. The unrestrained, so
Yes.
that means there's a person there, but they just don't have their dog under control, versus stray, the dog's
Correct.
by itself. So this seems to be holding pretty steady, but I guess, what happens? Like, they go out in the field, do they often actually see the person with the unrestrained dog?
It varies. A lot of those are comprised of people in our shared use areas. So parks, walking trails, things of that nature. It's really elusive to try to track down a person
That's
with
what I would
their
imagine.
pet
Yeah.
in those situations. And so oftentimes we're met with, if we do catch up with the person doesn't, we have no arrest authority, and so the person doesn't have to stand there and be questioned. They can walk away, they can choose to put their animal on a leash. If we ask them for their ID to attempt to issue them a notice of civil penalty, they do not have to provide it to us. And so it's very challenging to enforce those.
Well, is that something we should be addressing? Is their powers to do those things?
I think that's definitely a separate conversation, for sure. Bigger conversation at the legislative level, for sure.
So that's where it stems from, is that they haven't been officially authorized to do those functions?
Right, we don't have arrest authority, and because they're not peace officers, they're not able to detain someone, so to speak.
And in your work with other, across other jurisdictions and states, do they have the authority?
It depends on the jurisdiction, not from my previous jurisdictions, but that really depends on the state and the county jurisdictions and what authority they grant to their animal control officers.
Because, on the federal level, the wildlife people and so on, a number of them do have that authority.
Correct. Yes.
Or like park rangers. And we've been working with this at City Reno on park rangers versus park rangers that are more on the enforcement side versus more on the education side, and how do we balance that? So
Yes.
I think that's worth a conversation. I mean, maybe it's pushing uphill, but I mean, if it seems to be a constant that people are concerned about unrestrained animals and probably other things too. And I just wonder, is that something that could help your department be better, do better?
I think it's one of those topics we should definitely put in the parking lot for a
Okay.
future discussion.
Very good. Thank you.
Yes.
Quick question.
Sure, please.
Julie McMahon for the record. Last quarter, you had also 2 additional officers. One on, I think, was light duty, and one was recent hire, still in training. Have those both of those officers been released to full duty?
So thank you for bringing that up. I actually have missed a detail there. We have one officer that just returned from maternity leave and one that's been on light duty. So we've actually been down 2 animal services officers. But the new officer that I referenced at the last meeting is actually here in the audience, along with her field training officer. And so he can provide an update to you on where she is with her training. But at the moment, I'm going to knock on wood because we have every position filled except for our business technology person, which was the person who supported us in these meetings. And so hopefully we'll fill that vacancy soon. But as you all have heard me opine up here, it's been very challenging to recruit and to retain staff. And so we're happy to be at this juncture, and hopefully we stay here for a while.
Wow.
Thank you.
So this slide takes a look at our animal welfare related calls, just a little deeper dive into the calls that we responded to that can encompass cruelty, neglect, hot cars with animals locked inside. It encompasses quite a number. Animals left out in a yard without shelter or food or water. We took 737 calls of that nature in Q4, with 102 of those unfounded, and then 551 of those being resolved with other outcomes, and 84 being met with punitive approaches, issuing a civil penalty or a citation. And as a reminder, we do try to work through the less egregious calls of these nature to sort of get to the root of the issue, whatever the person's issue is, whether it's providing a doghouse or whether it's connecting them with resources, veterinary grooming, those types of things to help resolve those lower level welfare or neglect cases. And then for the more egregious ones, we definitely know, our officers know when to make those decisions when that level of violation meets a punitive approach. So we've talked a number of times about hot animals left in cars. This is our peak season. So we're responding to a lot of hot car calls. It is just the nature of Northern Nevada. We have a lot of people that travel through Northern Nevada. They aren't from here, and they think that we have, I guess, northern mountain temperature, and we have very dry, hot temperatures here. And so you'll find that some of the backstories of the folks that we cite and we find that have left their animals in their cars, they went in to have dinner and they left their animal in their car because they didn't know. They weren't from here. Not an excuse by any means, but it's just an indicator that we need to do a broader job of educating and having our community share the importance to people visiting them. If they have pets, please don't leave them in your cars, and don't go to dinner or go gambling at the casinos while leaving your pet in your car. So, but yeah, we are in the middle of that at the current time, responding to those calls. So at this point in time, I will hand it over to Assistant Director Tammy Jennings to talk about our outreach and medical programs and provide all the exciting updates and work we've been doing in those areas.
Tammy Jennings, for the record. I'm actually going to let Quinn go first because her slides come up first for me.
Quinn Sweet, for the record. I'm a program coordinator here at Washoe County Regional Animal Services, so I'll just give you guys a quick update on some of our outreach progress over the last quarter. And we decided to kind of combine our outreach and medical program slides because there's so much overlap between what the outreach program does and what the medical team does. So Tammy and I are going to kind of tag team this section. Just to start, we'll talk a little bit about our pet food distribution and our vaccination clinic. So our pet food distribution, we served 377 seniors and 900 pets in Q4 of 2025. And our vaccine clinic, we provided 604 vaccines to 325 pets. So a little bit of a decrease from the last quarter, but as I mentioned in our previous meetings, coming back from maternity leave, I've been trying to get back into planning these community clinics that we had in the 2024 and that we haven't had yet in 2025. But hopefully next quarter I'll have some better updates for you on that. We were very busy with events in Q4. So we attended or presented at 8 different events. Some of the notable ones were the Mayor's Dog Bowl event. We went to Wagon Wheels. We did some school presentation at the Community Heroes School presentation, the Lazy 5 Summer Music Series. We did some disaster preparedness presentations for Northern Nevada Public Health. So we've been really busy trying to get out there to these different groups, get our booth out there, get those tags out there to the community, and do a lot of education. So very busy quarter for us. And then we've also stood up some new initiatives during that quarter. So notably, and I'll let Tammy talk a little bit more about the numbers, we implemented a free spay-neuter program for individuals staying at the CARES campus, Safe Camp or Our Place. And so they're able to now bring their animals to animal services to be spayed or neutered at no cost, in addition to their free vaccinations and microchipping. So that was an exciting new initiative for us. Our Lost and Found pet texting program, which I can talk a little bit about later. You guys may have gotten a postcard from us. The expansion of our public microchip scanning stations to include even more opportunities for people to reunite in the field without ever bringing them to the shelter. We added free distemper parvo and FVRCP vaccinations to our vaccine clinics to help make it a little more affordable for individuals who are attending those clinics, thanks to a grant from Petco Love. And then we partnered with SPCA of Northern Nevada on our Hot Car campaign. So also super busy in terms of the different initiatives that we were pushing forward. So as I mentioned a little bit earlier, we stood up a Lost and Found texting program. So this was also a grant-funded initiative through Petco Love. So it's an automated text messaging tool. So it helped people find the right route to go through to either reunite a pet that they've found or find a pet that they've lost. So it's all automated. When you text into the number, you get the different tools to either file a lost or found pet report, find a microchip scanning station, create lost or found pet flyers, contact our dispatch line, and different things. And it also does some follow-up after the fact to see if they were able to reunite the pet or if they were able to find their missing pet. So it's been a really handy tool, I think, for some of the community. I've definitely been watching people use it on the back end, and so people are using it, and I do think that I've seen several people mention that they have reunited and or found their pet, which is very great. Those pets never had to come to the shelter, and so that saves us a little bit of space. But also, if they don't have to come to the shelter, it's better if they don't. And then again, our microchip scanning stations. So we partnered with Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District to place microchip scanning stations for the public in every single Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District station in Washoe County. So that brought us up to a total of 19 functional stations that we currently have across Washoe County. Our little map there shows the yellow dots, which currently includes every Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District station, every pet station store, as well as Options Veterinary Care, which currently house our microchip scanning stations. So now that we have a little bit more coverage, we're hopeful to see a slight decrease, hopefully, in animals that come to animal services as a result. Yes?
Trudy Broussard, for the record. Do you have a way of tracking how often these remote scanners are used at the fire stations and the efficiency of?
Right. We don't have a way, so we do have a way to see if people have been using the website to look up the microchips. However, we don't have a way to track, which station it came from. We don't have a way to track what the outcome was. So this really truly is a tool, and you can see in that top, kind of in that top right, that is what a station looks like. It is a poster and a microchip scanner. So there's no way for us to formally track it. We do ask that our partners send us the stories, because oftentimes they do send us stories about, hey, somebody brought in a dog and it was the best day of work of my life, where we got to reunite this dog with their owner. So there's no formal way for us to track that number, but the hope is that having these available for the community will decrease the number of animals that don't need to be at the shelter that end up there.
Is that reflected in the numbers so far, or is it too new to say?
It's hard to tell. We're doing a lot of things to divert intakes away, and so it's hard to tell exactly what could be contributing. But you did see that we did have an increase in intakes, especially of those pocket pets. But so it's not really something we can attribute one way or the other to these microchip scanning stations. But it's a resource we are happy and glad to provide to the community. So.
Great, thank you.
And then I'm going to hand it over to Tammy.
Thank you. Tammy Jennings for the record. So I am going to present on our medical program. So in this past quarter, we have done 170 TNR surgeries. 5 return to the fields, and the return to the fields are potentially feral cats that have come in over the counter that we have added to our TNR days, and then the TNR partners that we're working with return them out to the field for us, so we don't have to go out and take care of it. We did 34 spays and neuters for our rescue partners. So those are dogs that were in the shelter and they found foster care for them. And so before they left the shelter, we were able to do their spay and their neuter before they left the shelter. So they don't have to go out and find a surgery somewhere else. So we did 34 of those. 34 animals came in for vaccinations for the CARES program to get into one of the campuses, CARES campus, our place, one of those campuses. And then we were able to do 5 spay and neuter surgeries for those same animals to help them with their stay at those campuses as well. Our medical team worked on 3 cruelty cases and then performed 1 necropsy over this last quarter. And we now have our new x-ray machine. So we are fully equipped with all the equipment we've been trying to get and everything. And since we put in this x-ray machine in mid-May, we've done 17 different radiological studies to help the animals at the shelter. We've also performed 15 other procedures, including things like abscesses, wound care, grooming, an amputation. We've done, Dr. Slayton's done a mastectomy due to some necrotic tissue on a mastitis case that came in. She's also performed an urgent spay because of a suspected dystocia and another uterine prolapse, and done some other exams sedated. So her and her team have done a tremendous amount of work over this last quarter to help the animals at the shelter for us. So it's been really great to have all of our lab equipment, our x-ray equipment, and all our surgical equipment up and going, and they're busy all the time. So it's been wonderful. So, and now I'll pass it back to Cheyenne. Thank you.
So that concludes the director's update that I have for all of you today. I wanted to remind everyone that our next meeting is scheduled for October 17th, same time, same place. And I mentioned at the last meeting that I would be bringing forward a legislative update from our session this year. We don't quite have that prepared yet, but I have asked Rebecca from Humane World for Animals if she would prepare a short presentation and update for you at the next meeting. And so I'm hopeful that she'll agree to be here to help provide that update, since the Humane World for Animals takes the lead on a lot of the legislative things that relate to animals. But we did evaluate approximately 9 bills during the session, and so that it was quite active, and we had a lot going on. And I'm sure most of you heard about Reba's bill, which increases penalties for animal abusers, and also gives extra protections to members of the public for breaking a window for a vehicle where an animal is locked inside. So So there's quite a number of changes there that my department is going to have to digest and to figure out how will we incorporate these into our practices, and are there legal considerations that we need to incorporate as well. So we're not quite prepared to provide that presentation yet, but I'm hopeful at our next meeting that we will.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, let me ask any further questions. Yes, please go ahead.
Member Fisher, for the record, I wanted to circle back to those other pets that are coming in bulk.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way, because I know we always talk about dogs and cats, people in the community, I don't think, realize that they don't have to go to PetSmart to get a guinea pig. They can adopt. And I'm not seeing any messaging to the public about the availability of these other pets. I mean, I, as a fish keeper, never think of fish being surrendered. And, I would love to help those fish out. But, it's a messaging issue, I think. And is anything talked about or being talked about to boost that?
Cheyenne Schill, for the record, great point, and I definitely do think that there is an area for we could, definitely cast a wider net, and our adoption partners who transfer those animals could cast that wider net as well. What we try to do from our perspective in a shelter that transfers out is to highlight some of the animals that get transferred to those rescue partners with the adoption page for those partners, and so we can certainly incorporate those small animals and the rescue that get transferred to highlight that these animals have now been located to Nevada Humane Society or whatever rescue that they have gone to, and direct people there. If you're looking for one of these animals, there's a plentiful supply of them, whether it's a shelter or a rescue group. I can assure you that rabbits, guinea pigs, and those types of animals are out there available for adoption.
Yeah, but how does the public know that? If they don't go to the Washoe County Regional Animal Services sites or the Humane Society site and look it up, is there any mention to the public anywhere that you have anything other than dogs and cats?
I don't know if that, I would have to leave that up to the responsibility of the adoption shelters to message that and to carve out specific targeted messaging for those animals. That really wouldn't fall under our purview, but it certainly is a great point to call to highlight that, that we could potentially share more messaging surrounding those animals to get them placed.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anyone else? Julie?
Julie McMahon, for the record. Two comments. Quinn, with the microchipping promotions, social media has been huge for this. So like a lot of these community pages, like the Spanish Springs page and North Valleys and so on and so forth, people post lost and found animals on those pages a ton, and you see a lot of resharing of your guys' social media posts. I keep pictures of them in my phone and put them on the pages as well. I'm kind of a weird stalker by that kind of stuff, just to try to help get the information out. But so I do think that although we may not have data to track that information yet, it's definitely being talked about in the community and followed, and it has a robust social media aspect to it. So, and then the other thing I just wanted to comment on is about other adoptions for some of these animals. I can also remark that I have noticed that, for instance, earlier this year, NHS had a plethora of bunnies that came through, probably through you guys and then them, or I don't remember how they came through, but also the guinea pigs that recently came through, that there were social media promotions associated with those as well. So I think that also on Pet Finder, a lot of those animals are listed on the adoption side of it as well. So there is public resources. I do believe that social media has to be a big part of it, because that is our now adult community and where they get most of their information.
Good. Anyone else have something to add? I just want to ask quickly about turtles. So are turtles in these other animals?
Yes, we get a fair number of water turtles.
Water turtles.
Yes.
And So a question, recently I was at a nursery, and they had a lot of turtles, and they informed me that it was illegal to acquire turtles in Nevada. Is that true?
Probably tortoises.
Tortoises?
Yes.
Okay, but not turtles? In general?
Turtles, yeah. The water turtles are not illegal to acquire in Nevada. They are a little bit of a high maintenance pet, and so people will oftentimes acquire them thinking they're cute, and then they realize that the care that has to go with them is pretty significant. And so we see them in large numbers. Sometimes people let them go in lakes and bodies of water around our region, and they can be an invasive to our fish species, and so they are definitely one of those animals we do see a higher number.
So what are we talking about, like the little baby turtles that are in aquariums? Is that what you're saying? That are hard to maintain, or what are you referencing?
So the red-eared slider turtle that we see often, they obviously are little when they're first born, but then they grow into a normal-sized turtle, which can be 7 or 8 to 9 inches in diameter, and they eat live fish, and that's one of their things that they survive on, but they are a lot of times purchased when they're little tiny,
Baby.
the size of a silver dollar, and they're very cute to the person purchasing.
So then what happens? I mean, then these go to adoption agents, other agencies, and then people that adopt them need to keep them in aquariums again, even though they're big turtles?
They can be kept in ponds and
Oh,
bodies
okay.
of water, yes. And we do have some turtle and tortoise rescues that we do transfer to, that are set up and equipped to house and handle the care and adoption of those animals.
Okay.
So we do work with a number of them.
Okay.
But they're a little harder to adopt, for sure.
Okay.
To transfer, I should
Good
say.
to know. Anyone else? Final questions on this? All right. Thank you so much. Very informative as always.
Thank you.
And a lot of information shared. And I'm very proud of the advisory board for continuing to give you advice. Some good suggestions from the community or from their own experience. That's what we're here for. So I really appreciate that, board. You staying so engaged. It looks like we're going to close out 6. We don't need any action, but 7 is about the field training officer program. And I think, Cheyenne, you mentioned that we had some training happening, a training officer here, so.
While he's approaching, Madam Chair, I'd like to advise you that Member Rodriguez has joined the meeting via Zoom.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Member Rodriguez has joined the meeting via Zoom.
Oh, okay. Okay, welcome, Councilman Rodriguez.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for letting me know. And now we're going to move on to the training officer program. Could you introduce yourself and take it away?
Hello, my name is Clinton Nelms, last name spelled Nelms. I'm the lead animal services officer for Washoe County Animal Services. First, I would like to thank you all for having me today. It's a privilege and an honor to be able to speak with you today about our program and represent our department. First, I'm going to introduce myself, talk a little bit about my history, then we'll talk about the training, the equipment, what my position is, the benefits of my position, and then I'll give you an opportunity to ask questions if you don't have any while I'm speaking previously. It's important for me that you know my history and have that information so you have faith that everything I'm telling you is from my personal experience and you have confidence that what I'm providing you is accurate information. So I've been an animal control officer for 19 years. The first 10 years of that were for the city of Sacramento, where I was a level 1 officer, then promoted to a level 2 officer. Now, in 2 months, it'll be 9 years here in Washoe County. I was California Post certified in 2003. I completed the Animal Law Enforcement Academy in 2007. I was post-certified in illegal animal fighting in 2009. I have completed the Humane Officer A, B, and C through Colorado State University. I am a certified animal cruelty investigator, level 1 and 2. The California Supreme Court recognized me as a dangerous dog expert and allowed me to provide expert testimony in cases involving dangerous animals. I am our department's not only field training officer, but also with the support of field manager Robert Wooster, more of a field training coordinator, because not only do we have training for our new officers, but also our existing officers. And with our staffing levels, it's very common that I can't train everybody all at once. So I have to coordinate their training. I am a certified instructor in Saber Red OC, commonly referred to as pepper spray. I am a certified ASP expandable baton instructor, handcuffing and tactical lighting technique instructor. I'm also a certified Byrna law enforcement instructor, and I instruct at the Washoe County Sheriff's Office Patrol Academy.
How lucky are we to have you? My gosh.
Thank you. So when I became
What's that? Yeah, what don't you have? Could you share that with us?
When I became the lead animal services officer, it was, I made it very clear that my goals were to not only raise the standard of our officers, but also our profession as animal services officers and the reputation of our department as Washoe County Regional Animal Services. My goal to do that was to present a product to the public, to our law enforcement partners and the community that was perceived as professional, competent, and effective through making certain changes to our uniforms, such as our badges, our equipment, our efficiency and effectiveness, and for not only that, but also for us to be recognized as the best animal control agency in the region. My goal is for when someone says they want to enter this career, for people to say, well, Washoe County is where you want to be at. That's the best place for you to go. So to do that, that kind of starts with your candidates. It starts with the people that you bring into your department. And so I worked with some of our other staff to create a hiring announcement and flyers that was on par with nationwide law enforcement agencies. And I think that's been very effective. Not only did we increase the numbers of the candidates that were applying to come to our department, but also the quality of the individuals. Out of the 6 people that have been hired since I became a lead and was involved in hiring, 4 of those individuals have peace officer standards training certificates, including a individual who was a deputy sheriff for 7 years and a fish and game warden for 6 years. Those are the kind of candidates that improve everybody around them in regards to their ability to help with providing advice and instruction as well. So we're really happy to have those individuals on. And also the other 2 candidates that didn't have the previous law enforcement background are essentially experts in dog behavior with their animal training history. So we've done a very good job at improving the individuals we've brought on. I also I changed our code of appearance. I changed our use of force policy, the way that the use of force is reported and also reviewed after that use of force takes place. And then we rewrote the OC baton and Byrna SOP as well as our equipment. So with the training program, when I came on, our training program was approximately 8 weeks. I've increased that to 16 weeks. When these individuals are with us, our goal is to provide them with the tools to succeed and for them to better serve the public in our community. And so I didn't feel that 8 weeks was enough. I felt that we're never going to have enough time to show them everything because of the nature of our job. However, allowing them to be with us for 16 weeks puts them in a better position to succeed when they get out there on their own. I changed the satisfactory requirements in regards to our programs we use in our computers, our call management, our contacts that we make with individuals, radio use, communication, coworker relationships, their interpretation of laws and understanding of the laws that we enforce, report writing, animal handling, disease and injury recognition, and once again, the interpretation and how we apply those laws. That's all, rather than simply saying, okay, your 8 weeks is up and we think you're good to go. I created a way to document and their progress throughout their training program. That way we understand where they are. So the training courses that we have for existing officers, implementing the OC, the baton, the Byrna, we have trailer training. So all of our officers are competent and confident in pulling trailers when those disasters do occur. Are having all of our officers not only meeting the requirements to become a certified euthanasia technician, but to have the confidence to be able to do it competently and safely and in a manner that I would consider to be respectful of all the animals that unfortunately meet that requirement. Bridge training classes that we offer through Washoe County, taking advantage of those. Vehicle operations course to give our officers more confident when driving around these big trucks they may not be used to. We are looking into providing our officers more post-related training. Where I was previously employed, I had the full authority of a peace officer in regards to making arrests and warrants, serving warrants while on duty. So that post-training was required. Here in Nevada, it is not. However, it's still very useful. In our nature of our job, even though we're not a peace officer, we still need to be educated in regards to constitutional rights and things of that nature. We are expected to issue citations to investigate crimes involving animals, and that takes interviewing subjects, collecting evidence, things of that nature. So being able to provide our officers with some form of peace officer training would be beneficial. So we're looking not a full academy, but modular pieces here in regards to search and seizure, report writing, evidence collection, things of that nature. The benefit of having the instructor in-house, myself and Field Manager Robert Wooster are certified instructors in these matters. The benefit of having that is, one, we just had a lack of training in the past. And it wasn't there's nobody to blame for that. It was simply a lack of ability to obtain it. And so the benefit of having us in-house is we can provide our own training. We can do it our own way. We're not relying on anybody else's timeline, okay? We would reach out to certain agencies or departments and say, hey, can you provide this for us? And we were not getting the training that was beneficial to our officers. It was very minimal, it was very short, and it just wasn't good enough. So the benefit of having us as instructors, we do it our way. We do it on our own schedule to where we don't have to wait. And we can add our own information and instruction, especially relating to animals. So the equipment, unfortunately in my 19 years, I've experienced the worst that this profession has to offer. And I did not feel that our officers were provided with adequate safety equipment. Therefore, we have implemented that it is mandatory for our officers to carry OC and to be certified, which is pepper spray. They were certified and trained at a professional level and probably some of the most rigorous baton training in the profession. And also certified in burn a pepper ball launcher, which allows them to create a distance between them and the threat, which is very effective and beneficial for us to have. It wasn't only for self-defense either. It was for us to be better equipped to stop a threat that persisted to the public. A lot of times we respond to these calls, we're the first to arrive, and the public is in danger from these animals' behavior. And so our officers need to be equipped with a way that we can not only protect ourselves, but we can also protect the public that's being threatened by these animals or already have been injured. So the benefits of my position I already discussed in regards to us having the ability to provide our own training, but it's also to keep that uniformity of training rather than having individuals and saying, okay, you're going to train this person. All right, now you're up, now you're up, now you're up. And they're all getting different training. That's not fair. And so having a lead animal service officer who's responsible for that is beneficial because you have that uniformity of training with the officers, that standard of training, and everybody gets the same. It also allows me the opportunity to research other training opportunities. However, unfortunately, with our staffing, I've been extremely busy with our training. We requested another lead officer position previously. Unfortunately, we weren't able to achieve that at this time. However, if it comes up in the future, it would be beneficial for our department to have one because it would allow us to take the time to research and develop these other training opportunities for our officers. Now that I'm finishing up here, everything that I've achieved has been with full support of our department. It's been with the support of Cheyenne Scholl, Tammy, our field manager, Robert Wooster, Ryan Crane, his office staff, our kennel staff, and our field officers. I may not have the opportunity to speak to you all again, so I'm just going to ask that in the future, how you guys can support us is when we're talking about those laws that need to be changed, and there is a number of them that can in the state of Nevada, and I am certainly not close to being done with what I want to do with this department and our officers. So when those do come up, those laws, and you see them and they're asking for change, I just ask that you use your voice and your influence to try to help us out and with achieving that stuff.
All right, wow, thank you so much. This is really a first, Cheyenne. I don't recall us having a similar presentation ever. So glad to meet you and hear about what's going on. I have a few questions, but I'm going to open it up first, and then I'll come back. Anyone?
Member Rodriguez has a comment.
Yes, Mr. Rodriguez.
Hi, thank you, and thank you, officer, for being here. I guess I have I do have a couple of questions. One, I guess, is there a reason why your officers or your department aren't post-certified, or is there any barriers for that? And I guess I kind of go with when I had a tour with our director, criminal cases would fall upon the different jurisdictions, whether that's in Sparks, Reno, or within a county. And I could probably understand the frustration that maybe the city attorneys or the detectives may not have the amount of knowledge, particularly to animal cruelty cases, that obviously you and your officers would have. So are you seeing any barriers with the different jurisdictions or anything like that? And if so, how can we as different agencies help you in that? And then also following up would be, do you see the need for you in your department to be post-certified?
Clinton Elms, for the record. I can certainly answer those questions. Why our officers are not post-certified, it's not required in the state of Nevada. That's the bottom line. And so no program has been developed. For instance, to use an example, our neighboring state, California, requires all animal control officers to be post PC 832 arrest, search, and seizure certified. And the state law says that they have the authority of a peace officer to make arrests and or serve warrants while on duty. There's nothing like that in the state of Nevada. We fall under a NRS, which says that certain jurisdictions can label certain individuals, such as animal control officers, as specialized law enforcement and give them the authority to issue citations. But nothing says that we have the authority of a peace officer, nor does it say that we're required to obtain that training. That's why some of our officers do not have post-training. Like I explained earlier, we have gravitated towards attracting those individuals from corrections and also from other law enforcement agencies where they have obtained that training from their previous departments. In regards to would it be beneficial, of course it would. I mean, the reality is that we're going out there and we're doing the job of a law enforcement officer. Every other law enforcement officer, regardless if it's fish and game, if it's parole and probation, if it's juvenile probation, Department of Alternative Services, airport police, doesn't matter. When they enforce laws, they're law enforcement officers and they're certified as law enforcement officers with post-training. Yeah. We're not. And that's because the state laws don't require it and don't afford us that authority. Now, would it be beneficial? Absolutely. Like I already explained, of course it would. Any training that makes you a more professional, more competent officer, it allows you to better serve the public and the animals of the community. Challenges regarding enforcing the laws? Absolutely. Reba's Law, which you guys are all aware of, that was just passed, boosts the penalties, and it also makes, it increases the certain violations to where they're felonies. We can't enforce felonies at all. And so when we do get a call where somebody has intentionally harmed an animal, which is common, especially in domestic violence circumstances, which increases that penalty even further, we don't have the authority to enforce it. So we can do the legwork, we can do the investigation, we can ask for assistance from our law enforcement partners, whether it be in the city of Sparks, city of Reno, or Washoe County, and work with them the best we can, but we don't have any control over how that plays out or how that investigation is completed.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez, and we'll come back to you. Let me check in with everyone else. No? Yes, please.
Just a real quick one.
Yeah, Trudy.
You mentioned that you have the training to take care of a situation when the public is in danger, threatened. And I wondered with Cheyenne's reports where that kind of incident gets, is that?
I can answer that. So I think what you're asking in regards to reports with the numbers of calls, right? Where you have unrestrained strays, things of that nature. Yes, ma'am. So Clinton Elms for the record. So that is, it's hard to do that specifically because that can fall into your unrestrained dog attack. That could be a label call. Stray aggressive, that can be a label call. And then you have your others. Assist REMSA for that nature. We recently had a call last week where we had a call on Winnemucca Ranch Road where an individual was involved in a vehicle accident. He was unconscious in the vehicle, and there was an aggressive pit bull preventing REMSA or SO from providing medical aid to that individual. Those are the challenges that we face. And those are the laws that we're talking about. One of those laws is to get us the ability, excuse me, to provide emergency response. That individual's medical care was delayed by probably 35 minutes because nobody was equipped to handle the animal. That's very common where a person is suffering a medical injury, whether it's a result of an animal attack or they're simply suffering a medical emergency and their own dog is preventing them from receiving care. REMSA and fire won't go in unless we come and remove the animal first. So those we're trained and equipped to protect the public. That's very challenging because that can be under so many different call titles, so to speak.
But a follow-up, are you available to arrive at these situations? You already talked to us about the limited number. You're maybe home in bed, it's night,
Sure.
Those kind of situations.
So we have an on-call officer that's on duty or on call, should I speak, from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m., which I am currently the officer that's on call. And yes, unfortunately, it is delayed. We do have a very large area that we provide service to. And therefore, we attempted to get a permit from the Nevada State Police that allowed us to provide an emergency response. And we were denied, unfortunately. They simply said, well, your name's not on the list. And so you got to change that through legislature. The county coroner, for instance, does have emergency response capabilities. They said, well, they probably had a friend in legislature. So that's what I'm talking about in regards to when you see these laws come up. We just I'm asking that you please use your voice to provide support.
Well, it's not only when the laws come up. We can initiate that. We have with Cheyenne. We have gone to the legislature. It starts now or even before now, but we have to get prepared to present. And it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a county bill. We're all together, so if Reno had a bill or a legislator had a bill, we could certainly work with one of them to sponsor that. And I think it'd be actually more effective if we got a legislator to sponsor it, frankly. So I just think it's something you should put on the agenda for us, Cheyenne, seriously, and talk with our board about if that's something we want to dive into. And I know we spent a lot of time, many hours at our meeting, going over all the detail in the proposed legislation, debating it, discussing it, rewording it. We probably need to start that. Potentially, if the board is interested in going there. But I would request at least an agenda item for the future on that. I just had a quick question too. You've mentioned a number of other agencies that work with animals, such as Department of Wildlife for the state or Fish and Game. Is there much, interaction with those folks, or completely separate? Or you mentioned one of your officers, I think, came from one of those agencies?
Clinton Elms, for the record. Yes, one of our officers came from California Fish and Game. So when it comes to domestic animals in the field in Washoe County, we're it.
Yeah.
So if any of these agencies, it doesn't matter if, like I explained, if it's airport police, if it's Nevada State Police parole board, if it's at Department of Fish and Wildlife, if they come in contact with a domestic animal, whether it's a stray animal running around, a injured one, or they make an arrest and the animal is in a vehicle, whatever the case may be, they call us. So we do interact with them on a fairly frequent basis.
Okay. Now, is there cross-training back? I mean, there's many more of them than there is of you.
Sure.
And I'll give you an example. So I've been dealing, for a decade, my area has included South Reno as a council member. And South Reno, we've had probably 50 vehicle accidents with horses. Virtually all of those horses have either died on scene, been injured in a way that they have to be euthanized. So they will often call Department of Ag, their field agent, to come out, who is often in like Stagecoach or somewhere like that. They have to drive an hour into Reno because they're not stationed here, and apply euthanasia. Meanwhile, that animal's suffering.
Yes.
And so what I had asked our Reno police to do was to get trained in euthanasia because they're already on scene. It's been an accident. So they've been called, REMSA's there. Most of the time the people have not died. They've been injured, but they have not died, but their cars have been totaled. So their car's totaled. They probably had kids in there. I mean, it's typically at night because virtually every one of these 50 horses has been hit at night.
Yeah.
So you're already dealing in a difficult situation. I'm just wondering, since you're already dealing with euthanasia, is that something that we could have cross-training there too? Is that out there or is that reasonable?
Clinton Elms, for the record. And I'm glad you brought that up because I did forget to mention that part of us raising our reputation as being leaders in this industry and in this region is I have been contacted and we have already extended our training to, I trained the Washoe County Park Rangers and OC. I trained the Carson City Park Rangers and OC. I trained Douglas County Animal Services. And
OC is?
Pepper spray.
Oh, pepper spray.
I trained Douglas County Animal Control and Washoe Tribe Animal Control in Baton recently.
Okay.
And so we are getting that reputation out there where individuals are seeking us for training and putting their confidence in us to train them. I am very familiar with the horses that have been hit in South Reno. I've had the unfortunate task of dispatching a few myself previously. So I agree with you. A law enforcement officer that's already on scene, that has the capability, has the tools to end that animal's suffering as soon as possible should be a priority. If the Reno police officers reached out to us, me specifically, to train them in properly dispatching horse, that's something I would absolutely do.
I'm going to follow up on that if you don't mind.
I don't mind one bit.
We are, just to complete that end of the story, so we are currently building excuse me, a 12-mile fence that goes all the way from Hidden Valley, all the way past Geiger Grade and Toll Road down and hooks up to other fence to keep horses on one side, people on the other. You know, there are areas where they cross, and we're working with NDOT on Geiger Grade. We're installing a cattle guard / horse guard. We're fencing part of Geiger Grade as well, up and down. So the progress, we've made a lot of progress. Half the project's complete, but you know, I've been working for 10 years to get to this point. Education was great, but, you know, only so good. I got speed limits in. I got dual speed limits in, the first in the state, so that at night people go slower. And the people that are enforcing that are children with their parents in the car saying, Dad, you know, it says 30, you know, it says 25 or whatever in the dark, because that's when the animals are hit. But this has been an issue of, I've heard from many people that are in the car that they hear the animal moaning, groaning, suffering, and it adds so much distress to everyone, and as well as the animal, of course. So, well, let me go back to Joe. I didn't know if you had any follow-up questions, because I have one more too. Oh, okay. Oh, let me go to Julie McMahon. I'll come right back to you, Joe. Yep, Julie.
Julie McMahon, for the record, as related to training peace officers in euthanasia, there are some state board regulations that are veterinary regulated that euthanasia technicians can only be animal control officers. It's in our legislation at this point. So working with the training, yes, but being able to carry pentobarbital as a peace officer and providing the euthanasia may be a very large lift on both sides because of the regulations associated currently.
Yeah.
So I do think that other things that, not to add burden to Washoe County, but if the endow person is not within a few minutes of reason, can there be a partnership
That's what I'm
with the
thinking.
Department of Wildlife and Washoe County, and or why not talk to to Comstock?
Yeah.
Like, why not talk to the hospitals that have resources, especially in South Reno,
Yeah.
where you have immediate veterinary access, which might be a more reasonable path to take to see if we can. We talk about forming partnerships. This would be something that I think would be
Yeah.
far more reasonable and probably less of a lift instead of trying to go to legislation and then trying to change the veterinary laws
Sure.
associated with
And
it.
let me just be clear, it's actually Nevada Department of Agriculture. The endow people aren't
excuse
even
me.
involved.
Yeah, Department of Ag, yes, correct.
But that was my follow-up question. But, so yes, I think it's a great idea to partner up with clinics. I think they were, I'm going to be honest with you, I think they were using guns versus
Well,
phenobarbital.
and I mean, in certain situations, yeah,
Yeah.
that's absolutely,
Yeah,
you
Yeah.
have to do what you need to do.
Yeah.
Clinton Elms, for the record, just to be clear, that's what I was referring to.
Yeah.
Was educating Reno police on how to adequately dispatch a horse with a firearm.
exactly. Where to do it, how to do
Yeah.
it, yeah. So, yeah, please, and we'll come back to you, Joe. I'm sorry, you still have fresh questions here at the board? Yeah, Ms. Andriolo.
I just want to thank you and thank you, Cheyenne, for the leadership that is needed to address this. It's certainly great. I had made the comment as you were going through your extensive resume, like, it might have been easier to say what you haven't done. So I really appreciate the level of, the exemplary level of trying to do what needs to be done, especially as we grow. We're seeing this in terms of even the numbers as we experience continued growth. I am also wondering, and I'm guessing that I know the answer, but I never assume in my personal or professional life, that on the preparedness side, that too has an instrument of initiation, and the capacity that have already been expressed, I'm not going to repeat it, is also a concern. So making sure, it sounds like this is somewhat new, so I apologize. I don't know if this is new. It appears that this is new, and where you're wanting to take this direction is new or expanded if it isn't new. So I do have a follow-up to that, but I'm not sure if this is new.
Madam Chair, if I may respond,
Yeah, of
Cheyenne, for the
course.
record. So I think what you're asking is if this lead position that Officer Nelms fills is new. It is relatively new within the last 2 years. And so as we have organically grown this position, as Officer Nelms has explained, all of the things that we have internalized for continuity, for efficiency, for cost savings, that I think it really was overwhelming when we really realized how much work that he took on in addition to being a field officer. So he's providing the training, he's providing the, when he brings on a field training officer, they're with him for months.
Yeah.
So that takes him away from the ability to do other things. And so that led us to the need to develop a secondary position just like his, to be able to carry on the training needs as they have organically grown. And I foresee that change and request won't, that request won't change. We will still need that position. And I very strongly feel that internalizing the training that Officer Nelms has been able to bring on has made it so much easier for the rest of our team to remain consistent and professional with that level of training versus, as he's already indicated, sending people across the country, sending them to various different law enforcement trainings. It's very disjointed. And so having him internally be able to provide that consistent training has been so valuable to us. And so it's something that we definitely feel we could use another person to help expand the additional goals and initiatives that we want to lift. So I hope that answered your question.
It did. It clarified that point, and so thanks again for the leadership. Thank you for really even trying to ensure that the standards are higher than what is even expected. But I do think there's a point that has been already made, and I'm just going to reiterate it, is leveraging what those relationships, whether it's Comstock or other folks, because even extending to fire, as an example, there's a lot of agencies, as you well know, that respond to various calls in various ways for various reasons. And so I think it would be helpful to understand what that leveraging could look like, if it's something that you would be willing to at least share collectively. I think it would be helpful for us to understand what that looks like, and then what we can do even jurisdictionally to help with that as well. So that's where I'm going, is the capacity that you really need, I think may already be there, and it's now figuring out how to leverage that opportunity. And so that's where I'm really going. And I'm going to leave it in the hands of the experts to look at what those recommendations are. So I do appreciate all of the hard work and time. I don't know when you sleep. I don't know if that's an option, but I really do appreciate it. And thank you for all you do. And thanks for the professionalism that you're bringing to our community. Thank you. And thank you for your leadership.
Yeah.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah. And let me turn, Joe, did you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, just last two. I guess circling back around to like the code response, like code 3 responding to like the instance you gave, like a medical emergency. In my other capacity, I know you guys are heavily involved, like during evacuations, stuff like that, fire responding, like Davis Creek and a number of other fires where we're doing those evacuations. I know animals are part of that. And they also can cause, traffic concerns as well. So I'm just concerned, when was the last time your department put in, I guess, for lack of better words, requesting to be authorized to use code 3 response with the state?
Clinton owns the record. This is actually done very recently. We're having a couple new vehicles built for our department, and we looked at obtaining code 3 response lights to those vehicles. We tried to do it essentially the easiest way, and we felt that we were adequately justified through Nevada state law to get them. However, we were denied by Nevada State Police or whoever makes those decisions for the state of Nevada.
I wonder if there's an appeal process on that.
We went at it pretty hard, and basically we're told you guys got to change the state law to basically simply add your name to the list.
Wow.
And that's it.
Okay.
I will say I do know there's been some recent retirements and changes in leadership with the department. So maybe perhaps revisiting that might be potentially beneficial.
Clinton owns the record. Anybody who knows me knows that I do not back down easily at all, and I keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. So it's certainly something that will be revisited. But thank you for the advice on that. You're right. As certain individuals move on and new people take those positions, you certainly have other opportunities to speak to them, and things may be different outcomes.
Yeah.
All right.
I think that's it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's it. Okay. I just have one follow-up too. You know how you've taken all this cross-training. You've done post, the baton, the this, the that, the other. But I wonder if there's any requirement on the other side for any of our police officers in any of our jurisdictions to get additional animal training, in that area. Is that part of their training program already?
So Clinton owns the record. As far as I'm aware, I did my post training in California, so I don't know exactly what Nevada includes. From what I understand, they are required to, I believe, to do an hour of animal training, which is very minimal.
Yeah.
Washoe County Sheriff's Office brought me on to do a portion for their patrol office as they enter their patrol academy.
Right.
Several academies ago, and I believe we're in talks to provide some of the same instruction to City of Reno.
That I think, well, we have a joint academy, so they go to the same one.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, Clinton owns the record, and I don't mean to cut you off, but
Yeah.
so you have your basic academy.
Yeah.
And then Washoe County Sheriffs, after they're done with their time in jail, have their patrol academy before they hit the
Gotcha.
road. And City of Reno has a similar
Right.
patrol academy where you learn the City of Reno policies and procedures.
Yeah. So that is a great idea. I think they should be cross-trained as well, because the more eyes out there, even to recognize an issue, know even when to bring you in might be helpful, even just meeting you, the team, the other officers, knowing this is a resource and how to work effectively. That could be useful. So one other question had to do with back to Department of Wildlife and Fish and Game. So I happen to live in an area with larger lots, and even without that, near some of our ditches, which, are highways for animals. So bears have been frequent. It's not even like time they're storing up, but they're already being seen in my neighborhood, doors away. I don't know. So I know when people report bears, that then NDOW gets involved. A lot of times bears are relocated, which very upsetting to most of the humans because they care about the bears. But I just didn't know, do you get involved in anything besides dogs, cats, and guinea pigs? Or does it cross over to any other kind of animals that might be considered wild, I guess?
Clinton owns the record. We previously would respond to basically anything that was asked of us.
Okay.
Previously. We recognized as a department that the responsibility of wildlife was to the Nevada Department of Wildlife.
Right.
Therefore, we do still currently respond to essentially small wildlife.
Small wildlife.
Skunks, raccoons, bats, things of that nature, if they're severely injured or deceased on private property in the roadway. If a deer is deceased on private property, we will respond to that, based mostly in South Reno. Or if regarding bears, mountain lions, predators, generally, no, we do not respond to those.
Okay, very good to know. Well, let me ask any final questions. I know we've spent a lot of time on this, but it's really the first time we've ever had this kind of presentation, learned about what you are doing. And I am going to reiterate that I'm really interested in getting the tools that you need, and if Nevada law is holding you back on even on a minor thing like getting lights on your vehicle, or which I know lights means you got to respond, but what I'm saying is that we are here to help, and we want to help. We're not here just to, have a one-way communication. We learned what you did, and that was where it ended. That's not how we're set up.
Thank you.
So thank you to both you and Cheyenne for being here. Okay, really good. All right, well, we're going to close out item 7, I think that was, and move on to 8, which is options veterinary care access to spay-neuter program.
Okay,
You may want to bring that, there you go.
Hopefully that's better. I'm Bonnie Brown, the president of Options Veterinary Care. Thank you all for inviting me to be here today. I'm going to start off with just a super quick overview of options. So we can go on to I have the clicker there, that's helpful. Okay, let's see. So I imagine most of you are familiar with Options Veterinary Care, but in case there are people listening who are not, we are Northern Nevada's only nonprofit, affordable, high-quality care clinic. We serve the public. And it's a program of Humane Network, which is a Reno-based nonprofit organization. We're a full-service clinic. We do pretty much everything that most veterinary clinics in the community do, except as a nonprofit, we do not compete with those other veterinary clinics. Instead, we aim to serve the clients that they are unable to serve, primarily because the client does not have the financial wherewithal to afford veterinary care, in which case their pet would go without veterinary care. And that impacts both the animal, of course, but also the well-being of the person who cares about this animal and is experiencing their suffering alongside them. And that can result in surrender or abandonment of animals at shelters because the person really does care. They recognize they can't afford veterinary care, and they see animal surrender to a shelter as perhaps the most humane thing they can do for their pet. So we're here to fill that gap so that pets are staying with the people that love them and out of animal shelters. Options, so the way we're able to do it, and often people ask, how can we provide more affordable veterinary care? Veterinary care is very expensive, and that's why the costs that we all pay when we go to the vet are high. And it's because it actually is extremely costly. Staff is costly. There's a nationwide veterinarian shortage, and so as a result, salaries have gone up. And also, with many other things, the cost of medications and supplies continue to go up. So how we do it at Options is we use incremental care strategies. Today we're talking about spay-neuter, so I'm not going to really go into those, but the University of Tennessee has a pet health equity program, and they have really done a lot to define that. So if anyone is interested in it, I'm happy to refer you to the University of Tennessee's website. We also work with partner organizations that cover costs for some clients. We seek grants from national organizations, and of course, we primarily rely on donations from individuals and local businesses. And last year, we were able to care for 9,800 dogs and cats. Now, the majority of those are not spay and neuter surgery, but spay and neuter is very important to us because it benefits the community in terms of fewer animals ending up in shelters, and also the health of the individual pet is improved. So we really want to thank Washoe County for including Options in the ARPA funding for your spay-neuter capacity building efforts in the community, which I totally applaud, and I'm so excited to see that that was one of the things that was undertaken and that we got to be included. So at Options, I believe, Options and Nevada Humane Society are the two major organizations that are providing this service with ARPA funding. So at Options, we are providing free trap, neuter, return surgery for the community. This basically means free roaming community cats that are cared for or living in Washoe County. We will neuter them for somebody free of charge. They just call for an appointment and say that they're in the county. Free spay-neuter for Washoe County rescue groups. Now, they are now able at Washoe County to neuter many of the animals pulled from the county shelter, but we do work with county rescue groups on animals, specifically cats seem to be a common animal that we help with. And affordable and free spay-neuter for Washoe County pet owners. So those are the three things we are doing with the ARPA funding that was granted to Options. And just to be clear, it's a reimbursement program. So we provide the surgery and then we are reimbursed. So since the funding was awarded on December 10th through June 30th, Options has performed 2,182 spay-neuter surgeries. Because well, I'll go on with this part first. So this is how that breaks out. 561 dogs have been spayed or neutered, 1,620 cats, and 1 rabbit have been fixed since December 10th. And the reason we picked December 10th is that was the date of the commission meeting where the funds were awarded, and we were told that we could begin to provide services. So the purpose of the ARPA funding is to expand capacity. And one of the things about Options that is unique, there are many other similar clinics around the country, is that we actually do work with each client individually to determine their financial need and to find the program that's best going to serve them. So of the nearly 2,200 surgeries that we have performed, 36% of those have been covered by the ARPA funding. So that represents an expansion in what we have been able to provide in the past. So the program is reimbursing Options $62.50 per surgery. And I already covered the rest of what's on the slide here. But throughout, I've tried to sprinkle in a few animals who have benefited from the ARPA funding, like Coco, who had pyometra surgery at the clinic. That is a uterine infection, and it can be fatal if the animal does not receive care. Of the total nearly 2,200 surgeries we performed, the SPCA of Northern Nevada's voucher program has covered 151. Now, though that requires a copay, where the ARPA funding does not require a copay, and the average copay is about $70 from the public. So we are one of their providers. They also work with many private vet clinics in town that also offer these services. So again, you see here what I'm talking about, where we talk to an individual client, and rather than ask them to figure out what program they might be a fit for, we figure that out with them in order to determine how the services are going to be covered so we can provide them.
Bonnie, if I could just stop you right here.
Sure.
I'm a little confused. So you were already doing some spay-neuter.
Yeah.
Under your own, with the donations and all the things that you had. And I'm going to ask you later about that, but right now I just want to clarify this. With the SPCA, what is their role? Do they have ARPA dollars too?
No,
I'm a little
they have a private funder, I believe, that has funded a voucher program.
Oh, I see.
I think they call it the SPCA of Northern Nevada Voucher Program. They also have a program for community cats, but because in Washoe County we are covering those cats for free at Options, they are covering out-of-county cats.
So they have a copay.
It's very confusing, yes.
Well, it is a little confusing, and I'm just, I wasn't expecting to see a SPCA slide in your talk, so I'm just trying to understand, do they send pets to you because they don't have the capacity, or what are you saying?
They could. We are one of the clinics that work with them where we have their criteria, and they allow us to approve people for their program. So it doesn't have to funnel through their administrative team. But they do have a team that vets other people who contact them for a voucher that are working with other private clinics, both within and outside of Washoe
I might have
County.
to just visit with you a little later to better understand this landscape.
It is complicated, and so I wanted to show that let me go on, maybe this
Please,
will
go ahead.
help. So the third component, so of the nearly 2,200, I think it's 2,182, but I'm just going to say roughly 2,200 surgeries that we completed by the end of June. Of them, 57% are funded by other programs, not the SPCA and not ARPA funding. So those 57% of the spay-neuter surgeries that we have done have either been paid for by the owner themselves, and to us this is important. We want to be sure that the money is going as far as it can go, the SPCA's money and the ARPA money. And so by talking to people, sometimes when they hear our standard prices, which I will share with you in a moment, they are able to pay that. They just weren't able to pay what they heard the price was when they called other veterinary clinics. So if they're able to pay, we think that's ideal, right? Because then we're not using government money or SPCA donation money or our donors' money to pay for a service that a person could pay for themselves if the cost was just a little lower than what they are getting quoted when they call around. Does that part make sense? Sure. Also, rescue groups from outside of Washoe County, those animals are in this number, and typically they are paying our fee, which you'll see in a minute, with a 20% discount. That's what we do for rescues. And then others are funded by donors. So we have donor funds coming in. Some are restricted and some are not. So our accounting is extremely complicated. But we have donors who fund spay-neuter as well. And so we talk to each person, which is time-consuming, and determine what is the best way to help this person get the care their pet needs. Is it through the ARPA funding that we have available? Is it through the SPCA's funding? Or can they just pay themselves? Or is there a different program that we have? I don't want to go into the ins and outs of all the little various donor programs because we'd be here all day. But does that help that there's sort of spay neuters in 3 ways that they could be funded? Yes? Okay. So these are options, non-subsidized pricing, and this is on our website. And I don't know that you want me to go through it, but if you compare it, you can see that they are substantially lower. So say someone called another clinic and they were quoted $600 to neuter their dog. Well, they can't pay that, but they could pay $320 for a dog of their weight at options, and they're really happy to get that level of discount. It's obviously substantial. So those are the folks that are sort of self-pay out of the total number. And, again, with veterinary practice rates that we quote here, these are what we have been able to obtain through either phone calls or looking online at what is published. And so it may not be 100% accurate, but we think it's fairly accurate. And I just want to be clear that this is in no way a criticism. Private practice veterinary business is difficult, it's challenging, it's expensive to run a clinic. And so when I look at those fees, they seem very justified. And our fees are low because they are in large part subsidized by donors who make options possible and grants that we receive. So we're very grateful for that. Otherwise, we wouldn't exist because, if people could afford those prices, even though they're very fair prices, options wouldn't be needed. But there is a segment of pet owners, as I think you all know, who cannot afford, $400 to get their dog fixed. So now I'm going to focus on the 798 spay-neuter surgeries that have been made possible by Washoe County with the ARPA funds. So of the 72 dogs that have been fixed, 36% of the dog owners made a financial contribution towards their dog's surgery. That also means that 64% were unable to make a further contribution, and we determined that the ARPA funding was the best way to help these people get their pets fixed. So of those who paid, so now we're only looking at the 36%, 33% of them were actually paying for additional services, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. And again, of those who paid, the average was $172, with the lowest being $8.62, and the most anyone paid being $400. But keep in mind when you see this that 64% of the people contributed nothing. Nothing more than what we are reimbursed through the ARPA funding. So of those 72 dogs, these are the additional procedures that people received, and these are the things that most frequently the person is actually making a contribution for. 10 pyometra surgeries, mass removals, hernia repairs, and then in the lower digits are things like crypt orchid surgery, where it's a male animal, but they have to open the abdomen to look for a testicle that did not descend, and that's important because otherwise the animal's at risk of developing cancer, and all of the secondary characteristics of remaining intact, basically, because the testicle would still be in there. Let's see, amputations, and then take-home medications that are not related to spay-neuter. Our spay-neuter costs include pain medication and other typical medications the animal might be sent home with. So these are dogs that needed additional care. So we also subsidize 95% or 69 of the 72 canine spay-neuter surgeries, which were partially paid for by ARPA. So that was about $18,000 worth of subsidies, which are paid for obviously by donors or other grants, and that's $265 per dog. Does anyone have questions at this point? Okay to keep going? Okay. So now if we focus on the cats, out of the 798 surgeries performed with ARPA funding, cats represented 726 of those animals. And in part, this is because a capacity issue. Typically, surgeons like to balance the number of animals they do. We have done dog days, and we will continue to do them, but it is a lot more taxing for the staff, especially when the dogs are larger, because the dog is heavier to lift when the dog is anesthetized, and it is a more physical task to spay and neuter the dog for the veterinarian. It just takes longer. A really skilled veterinarian can spay, neuter a cat pretty quickly. But a dog, even a small dog, tends to take longer. And a large dog takes a lot longer. So in order for this to be sustainable for a surgical team, virtually every spay-neuter clinic is trying to balance a mix of cats and dogs. And so the capacity almost always comes out with more cats having surgical procedures. We have the breakdown here for you of which of those cats are community cats. It's nearly 60%, and the remaining roughly 40% are companion cats that live with people in their homes. 6% of the cat owners or colony caregivers made a financial contribution towards the cat's care. And most frequently, that is for extra medication that the cat needed, and I'll go over that in a second, what those procedures were. But you can see here the average was $31, the lowest contribution by a person was $7.40, and the most was $176. So most of these payments, as I mentioned with dogs, are to cover these additional services. About 9% of the cats needed additional services. The most common thing was take-home medication like antibiotics or to treat some other incidental illness that the veterinarian noticed, like upper respiratory infection or goopy eyes, or could be almost anything. Diagnostic tests, this most common of these is a test to see if the cat has fetal leukemia or FIV, that the person wants to know because they're going to mix the cat with other cats. And others are, like the dog's cryptorchid surgeries, hernia repair, mass removal. Of the cats, about 40%, or 290 of them, had to be subsidized by options supporters. So that's an additional $12,000, or an average of $42 per cat. So I wanted to take this opportunity to share with Washoe County residents who are seeking spay-neuter services what they can do. We do invite you to reach out to options. We currently do have cat appointments available very quickly. So if you have a cat or kittens that need to be fixed, or multiple cats, we can often accommodate people pretty quickly. With dogs, we still have a wait list, especially for larger dogs. But you are welcome to call and get on the wait list if you have constituents and they're looking for help. But there are other places people can get their pets spayed and neutered too. Nevada Humane Society has a very user-friendly scheduling platform on their website, which is great. The SPCA has multiple programs. The SNPs program is where they perform surgeries there. The voucher program is what we are part of, but they also are working with many other veterinarians in the community, and their Jackie's Cat community cat program. Also, Pinion Veterinary Hospital in South Reno has very affordable spay-neuter rates. They have a high-volume spay-neuter veterinarian on staff. So I just wanted to share with you a few of the most recent animals who got spayed and neutered at options. We really specialize in helping seniors who are living on low incomes, and you can see at least a few of these owners are older, and the gal in the top middle was facing eviction. The landlord had decided that there would be a requirement that animals be spayed and neutered, which of course is not a bad thing. But then the challenge is for people to get it done on a timely basis. And so we were really glad we were able to help her with her multiple pets to get them fixed quickly so she retained her housing. And I'd like to close by thanking Washoe County. We are very grateful that Options was chosen as a provider for Washoe County's spay-neuter capacity building efforts. We appreciate it. It enables us to help fulfill our mission, and so we are very grateful for that. We also want to thank some of our partners who've helped us, and that includes Washoe County Regional Animal Services, who is very supportive of our efforts to spay and neuter pets, the SPCA, as I mentioned, and also the many kind and generous donors in our community that make Options possible, including for us to be here to perform these spay-neuter surgeries. We wouldn't be here without them. So thank you.
All right. Well, fantastic presentation, very in-depth, and I really appreciated that. Let me open it for question. I'm going to actually, I don't know, for Councilmember Rodriguez, if we want to start with you. I didn't know if you had any questions.
No, I'm
okay. Good. And then let me turn to the board here. Anyone? Comments?
It was quite clear.
Very clear. Okay. Anything, Clara? No? I'll just say thanks for what you're doing. I'm really glad, I will say that myself and others pushed to expand the Washoe County program, ARPA program, and I think it's good. I hope when we asked, well, Cheyenne's stepped out, but when we asked for similar statistics from Nevada Humane, they were in an earlier process in their program, still getting things set up, so I hope to hear from them as well on this. But the numbers are impressive. The biggest question I had was, how do you decide this one's going to be ARPA paid and this one's, donor paid? How do you go through that?
Yeah, so we have, I'd say maybe 3 or 4 trained staff members, in addition to just the people who handle the calls at the front desk, who work with people individually. And we have a sort of a tiered chart. It's not exactly a flow chart, but it helps those people decide what, if the person doesn't have $70, then the ARPA funding is kind of a natural.
It's the right way.
Yeah. Because that is a requirement of the SPCA's voucher program.
Gotcha.
And ARPA funds did not come with that.
Right.
Kind
so
of
do you look
requirement.
at ARPA as sort of a last resort? So you go through the other programs where they could pay first, maybe through this voucher program or some other pay program, and then default to ARPA if they really just can't pay?
I think that's pretty well put, yes. So basically, if the person can afford our spay-neuter prices, and some people have seen them online or been referred by other veterinary clinics, because they can't afford their prices.
Yeah.
And then they're just happy to get that price.
Yeah.
And they can afford that, and they're
Okay.
not looking for additional assistance. So that's kind of the first people that you can pull off the top.
Okay.
And then we talk with them about their financial situation, because some of the donors that help Options will say only help senior citizens.
Oh, okay.
Or
There's special
so
program.
we're kind of looking, they have very specific interests
Criteria.
in terms of what they will allow their funds to
That's
help.
hard. I mean, when you have very dedicated funds that can only be used for this thing and not that thing, to track all that, I would imagine it's a little difficult.
It is. Fortunately, in our veterinary software, we're able to, once a decision is made how it is being covered, you're able to put the animal in either as an SPCA voucher animal, an ARPA-funded animal, and the self-pay is obvious because those invoices are closed immediately.
Sure. Okay.
Did that
just a side note, I know that you were here, or made us more aware that you were collecting pill bottles. And I posted about it. I got to tell you, I got a lot of interest from the general public. I don't know if it translated into you actually receiving these. I'm driving around in my car with bottles still in there. And I still have them stacked up at my house. But I wanted to make sure people know about that program, but I want to also make sure, are you still doing it?
Yes, we receive a lot of them. I think some recycle centers will not take the pill bottles, so they end up in the trash if you put them through the recycle stream. So yes, we do accept them. There's periods of time where we have so many that we can't use them all, but staff they have to be sanitized, obviously, because you can't have drug residue in there. But we do have staff and volunteers that help to do that. So,
okay.
yes.
So that's still ongoing.
Yeah.
I should still send people.
Yeah, you
I'm sure
can,
it ebbs and
absolutely.
flows. Okay. All right. All right. Any final wrap-up questions on this? I want to tell our director, really appreciate getting this info because we can match some outcomes with the money, and it gives us a feeling progress is being made. And I think on Nevada Humane, wasn't it that they were still setting up their program and we're going to come back later with the numbers? I'm trying to remember.
I think part of it is that we were allowed to start right
Immediately?
away
Yeah.
because we had received $100,000 in the first round of
I got you.
funding.
You were already a recipient?
It wasn't for spay neuter, that was for veterinary care.
Right.
So because we were already set up in the eCivis portal and
Gotcha.
and knew the drill about the reporting, I think that's why we were kind of allowed to get a jump
I'm just
start.
asking for a future agenda item and.
Madam Chair, Cheyenne Chill for the record. I'll let Jerlene, when she comes up to present, CEO of Nevada Humane Society, elaborate further. But it's my understanding they've been working hard to build the infrastructure of their program, and she will be prepared to provide a quarterly update at our next meeting.
Okay, all right, fantastic. Yeah, please.
Julie McMahon for the record. I recall that in a previous presentation, NHS said that they had to meet a criteria for receiving the ARPA funds, like a certain number of pets within a period of time. Does that fall true to you as well?
I'm not sure if you mean like a lower limit to what they will pay, and maybe Jolene can answer.
Do we have a goal to do X number of animals in 2 years? Or?
Yes, we do. Our number is 3,200 in the next 18 more months.
Okay. Great, because it ends December 26, if I recall?
I think so. It's supposed to be expended.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, very good. Okay, thanks so much for being here, Ms. Brown.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate what you do for our community. It's phenomenal. I mean, as electeds, we run into many people that are in a lower income category that really need services, and you are one of those special services. And you pointed out you're the only nonprofit doing this locally, and it's invaluable. It really is. We've sent many people to you. So,
Well, we appreciate that, and do feel free to refer people to us. And if for any reason someone's having trouble getting through, you can always reach out to me directly.
Okay.
I think you all have my cell phone number, but if not, I'm happy to share it through Cheyenne, and I will help your constituent, get the care that they or the help
cool.
they need. So thank you.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to close out 8 and move on to 9, and that is a presentation by Nevada Humane Society, the operational update report. Well, hi, Jarlene. Nice to see you.
Hi, good morning, Chair Dewar, advisory board members. For the record, my name is Jarlene Bryant. I'm the CEO of the Nevada Humane Society. Okay, so I'm here today to provide an informational update on Nevada Humane Society's services and programs that we provide to our community. And this will be, we are on a calendar year, so this will be for quarter 2. Some of the stats I'll be giving year to date, but primarily focusing on quarter 2. So I want to kick us off by talking a little bit about the animal help desk that we have at Nevada Humane Society. It is a resource for our community, for Carson City. We field calls even beyond our community here in northern Nevada and actually beyond, even though we may not be able to help those pet owners directly, we still provide resources and coaching and help to them. In quarter 2, we were contacted, our help desk was contacted almost 2,400 times. Huh? It's overwhelming, really, the number of people that are calling in that Some just have a simple question, and some are in very difficult and emotionally charged situations with animals that maybe have behavioral or medical issues, or they have come to the point where they need to make that difficult decision to give up that animal. Of those almost 2,400 calls, we received 1,900 requests that they need to surrender their animal. And again, I want to emphasize this is only during Q2.
Yeah.
Of those surrender requests, not all of them yield, or of those surrender requests, not all of them result in a surrender, thankfully. Oftentimes we're able to provide those resources and counseling that successfully keeps that pet in its home. Or maybe they found a family friend or a family member or a friend, or were able to find another organization that was more appropriate for that animal to go to. Maybe it was the organization that they got the animal from. So in Q2, we took in almost 650 pets from our community, and then year-to-date, almost 1,300, so in the first 6 months. Sometimes the pet owner that's calling in, they don't want to give up their animal, but they're struggling. They're struggling to feed them, they're struggling with medical care. I think Bonnie did a very good job illustrating the challenges in our community as it pertains to access to affordable medical care for pets. So we have our partnership with Washoe County Regional Animal Services. We value that very much. This slide, so when animals come into Washoe County Regional Animal Services after they complete their 5-day stray hold, those animals, the majority of them are available to transfer out if they have not been reclaimed. This slide represents the percentage of those animals that NHS took in Q2. So 98% of cats, 88% of dogs.
And just a quick question on these numbers. Is this only in Washoe County, or are you including numbers for Carson City?
Oh, no, this is just Washoe County.
Washoe County. Okay.
For the
a partnership.
the sake of this, this presentation.
Just wanted
so the
to
numbers,
confirm. Thank you.
And then year to date, same thing, 97% of cats and 89% of dogs that were available to transfer from Animal Services came to Nevada Humane Society. For those that are not involved in animal welfare, the term kitten season likely doesn't mean much. For those of us that are in animal welfare, it carries significant weight. We prepare for it as if we were going into battle a little bit, and gearing up for it, trying to make sure that we are as prepared as possible for that influx of those kittens. In March, those tiny babies, they start trickling in. By June, it's no longer a trickle, and they are steadily pouring in. And so in Q2, we received 648 of these babies that came in from the public. They found them. Mom wasn't with them. We do try to educate our community. Don't steal those kittens. Don't kidnap them, as we like to say. Maybe mom is just out foraging for food. So there is more information on our website as it pertains to community members that maybe find those babies. And then year to date, we have taken in 711 of these kittens from the public. And then, as you see on this slide, we have accepted 2,662 animals into our Reno campus in Q2 alone. 1,135 as transfers from Animal Services, 794 as intakes from the public. And then year-to-date, Nevada Humane Society has taken in over 4,000 animals. Many needing, I want to highlight that many of these animals need resources above and beyond what many organizations would be able to provide for them. So we try hard to meet the needs of the animals coming through, whether it's medical, behavioral, or both. And then this is always a happy number to be able to share. In just the first 6 months of this year, 3,403 animals were placed into what we hope is their forever home. So that's definitely the happy part of what we get to do. And then in Q2, almost 1,700 adoptions. Oh, I'm sorry, that was 2024. Q2, 1,854. So there's been much talk today about public spay and neuter, which is wonderful. And in May, our community medicine team was fully staffed and formed, and spay-neuter vehicles were outfitted, and we had the ability for our public our community to make appointments online, and we were ready to go. So I'm very happy to share that to date, we have performed almost 1,300 surgeries on owned pets in our community. We have appointments available. We are doing our best to shout this opportunity from the rooftop. But I will admit it has been a little bit of a challenge that I didn't anticipate. I knew that we had some work to do in a variety of areas. As far as filling our appointment schedule, I was a little surprised that we are still finding that a little bit challenging.
That you have openings? Is
That
what
we
you're
do,
saying?
yeah. So we have openings as early as next week for dogs, and as Bonnie mentioned, our clinic is the same as everyone else. We try to balance the dogs and the cats. So we have appointments available almost every day for cats, because we can certainly do more in a day than we can dogs. But next week we have appointments available for dogs. So we have been marketing this opportunity far and wide in every way that we can possibly think of. Mm-hmm. And so I want to, again, just put that out there to the universe and to this board, that if you know of anyone that needs to get their animal spayed or neutered, we encourage them to go to our website and see what is available.
So did you set a goal similar to what we just heard from options, like how many you wanted to do in a period of time?
I'm not sure exactly the grant requirements that were set for options. I can say that Nevada Humane Society, our goal is to do an additional 4,000 surgeries this year in 2025, and next year in 2026, an additional 5,600 surgeries. Okay. We are ready to go. We have an excellent team and a very fast, high-volume, high-quality surgeon. We just need to get the animals in to be able to perform those surgeries. Wow. So I'm hopeful, as more information, as it becomes better known in our community, that Nevada Humane Society is now has expanded their public spay and neuter opportunities. I'm hopeful that we will start to see even more full days where there are no available appointments. And moving on, you would think that Bonnie and I collaborated on the Pyometra stories, but we didn't. And I was just going to highlight very quickly that this was, we see many animals that come through our doors that need exceptional care, or care that is above and beyond the norm. And Nana's story really kind of warmed all of our hearts. She was 7 years old and had lived with the same family her whole life. She raised multiple children in that family. She was just the epitome of a wonderful family dog. And then they noticed that she wasn't feeling well, and she was exhibiting signs that showed that something was wrong. And they took her to a private vet, and she was diagnosed with pyometra, which is a uterine infection, and as Bonnie said, can be fatal, very painful. And it was a $4,000 estimate that they received, and they were devastated. There was no way. And yet, this was a family member for them. Yeah. And they were put in contact with NHS. We got her in right away, and she received her surgery and was able to go home the same day. And so her story isn't unique or exceptional. It really represents many animals that come through our doors, but I think we would be remiss if we didn't pause when we look at all the numbers and just look at an individual story for a moment, because this was a real animal and a real family that was experiencing a crisis. And then in addition to our adoption services and help desk and spay and neuter for the public and all the services we provide to the shelter animals, we do provide microchips to owned pets and, of course, all of our own shelter pets. And we do 2 vaccine clinics a week here at our Reno campus. So over 1,100 animals were microchipped in Q2. And almost 3,000 animals received life-saving vaccinations for a total of over 5,000 vaccine doses given in Q2 alone. And our volunteers. They're really the heartbeat of our organization, that and our laundry room at the shelter. And our volunteers, they are truly essential to Nevada Humane Society. The time that they generously contribute makes a significant impact on our staff and improves the lives of the animals we care for. And in Q2, our volunteers, wonderful volunteers, generously gave over 7,000 hours of their time. And that is an equivalent to 15 full-time staff members. And that was in Q2 alone. And then year-to-date, over 14,000 volunteer hours. So I want to give a shout-out to our wonderful volunteers and the program that we have, because it's very important. And then fostering. We have a very small but mighty team of 2 right now in our foster department. And they are responsible for getting all of these animals, most of which are kittens that need extensive care, out into foster homes in our community. And I also want to give a shout out to the foster homes in our community that open their hearts and homes to give some temporary TLC and time to all of the animals that they take in. In Q2, we had over 1,000 placements. Year to date, 1,400. Last year, we placed over 2,500 animals out into foster care. That is more than many shelters see coming through their doors, and that is like a medium-sized shelter in our community. So it's very, very important, and I didn't want to overlook that. And then one of the programs that we have is our Pet Pantry program. And it's a assistance to our community. It's one of the tools that we use in our shelter diversion program. If one of those calls to help desk, someone is considering having to relinquish an animal simply because they can't feed it, we want to be here and be that safety net for them. In Q2, we distributed over 46,000 pounds of food, and that is over 2,000 dogs being fed and almost 2,800 cats. Year to date, about 100,000 pounds of food, which means we are almost exactly on track with where we were last year. We distributed 200,000 pounds of dog and cat food out into our community. It's a heartwarming program. It is not an easy lift on the staff at NHS, but it's a very necessary program, and so most of that food, not all of it, but most of it is donated to us from community members, knowing it is going to go back out into the community and help those that are struggling. So
And
I feel
Darlene,
like that's a full circle program right there.
If I may, you're saying it's not easy on your, what's the challenge?
Oh, well, when the food comes in, then we have to bring that food in, transport that food back to our storage room. Then we repackage that food. It comes in all types of bags and shapes and sizes. Then we repackage that food into vacuum sealed 5-pound units. That doesn't mean someone only gets 5 pounds, but that way it's manageable. And then when someone from the community member comes in, we're taking their information, we're logging it. We do track when they got food last and how much they're getting. We do talk to them about whether their animals have other needs. Do they need to be spayed and neutered? What is the situation? It's oftentimes not just limited to food needs. Then the staff have to go back and get the food, cart the food back up. And so again, it's just more steps. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then just on some of that food, I know there's all different food, like there might be low carb food or low protein food or whatever. Do you have at least categories, or does it all get mixed? Or
no, we don't. It would just be too overwhelming, honestly, for us so it's not grain-free or whatnot. But we do take that food in, make sure it's in either a sealed bag or it's good condition if it isn't. So obviously, keeping the dog and cat food separate and then repackaging it.
Gotcha.
So.
Okay.
And with that, that concludes.
All right, thank you. I do have a question, but I want to open up to the board, see if there's anything here. Anybody? Yep, Ms. Andriola? Oh, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Jerlene. And I just have a couple questions. Maybe I'll start with the food first, since you just ended with that. What is the process? Do you have to do volunteers take the food to various places, or do you have to come in, or do you get the food when you're adopting, or is it just various ways?
Currently, community members they can come in 7 days a week, as long as we're open, and check in with our client services team. And maybe they're known to us, and their information is in our system, or maybe they're not, and it's a pretty simple process. So 7 days a week, they can access the food. They do have to come to us. We don't distribute it out. We don't go out into the community. I will say that in October, we're going to be shifting that program a little bit, still making the food available to our community, but updating how we distribute that food out and on what days. So.
Where I was going with that is, and even on the spade and neuter, is thinking about like the CARES campus and Our Place and Save Camp and other places in the community that clearly don't have the means for that. But I'm also specifically thinking about the spade and neuter, and I'm wondering how you may, whether it's you or Options or whoever it is there a system of some sort that already is in place? I'm just curious how that works.
As far as addressing the possibly the barriers of transportation.
Transportation.
Yeah. So eventually, yes. I mean, we do have a mobile spay-neuter vehicle, and eventually it will be going out into more under-resourced, underserved areas in our region. Right now, it is parked in front of our shelter, in front of our clinic, and many of the surgeries are happening out there because in our surgery suite in the shelter, that is where our shelter team, medical team, is doing surgeries on shelter animals. So right now, we know we can get the most amount of animals if we are stationed at our campus in Reno. Eventually, though, we are motivated, and Dr. Fitz, who is our Director of Community Medicine and Surgery, is very motivated to take that unit out into those under-resourced, underserved areas. Yeah.
Well, I'd encourage maybe looking at those locations.
Yeah. They are already identifying them, certainly. And we also know as we field those calls through our animal help desk and how those requests for surrender are coming in, and oftentimes they're puppies, we can see the zip codes that those animals are coming in from. So we have identified the more challenging, or the areas that are experiencing higher challenges as far as animals not being spayed or neutered.
Well, I'm also thinking, just as a suggestion, I'm sure you've already thought of it, and that is that even if it's every Tuesday or something, that the staff that are there and the community relationships that already exist in terms of the wraparound services and support and communicating that would know it's coming. And I just think that if you're looking at really trying to solve what everyone's really goal is to for the benefit of not only the animal but the community as a whole, that there's an opportunity for that being probably the most vulnerable population that we know of. So I'm just throwing that idea, but I'm sure you guys are on it. My last question is, do you all track when the transfers come from animal services to you? Do you track that placement correlation? So if an animal came in as a transfer from Animal Services, Washoe County, do you track that? How many are adopted? So these numbers are compiled from not only transfers, it looks like anyway, and also other means of animals coming into your facility. But I'm wondering if do you track that? So am I being clear? I'm not trying to be confusing. So if an animal came in from Animal Services today, a dog came, I'll just use it. Number one dog came. And that dog gets adopted eventually. Do you track what the transfer came in from Washoe County and what that adoption percentage is?
As far as when we're saying, are we talking about live release rate, save rate?
I think she's talking about specifically from Washoe County. So you're tracking, obviously, how long you have each animal and your days to adoption, right? But I guess you're asking, is it
specifically from
Washoe County?
Just curious.
Animal Services.
Yeah.
So the animals that are transferred in.
But it's Washoe County. Did I get that wrong?
No, it is. But so that's a two-part answer.
Okay.
We have the ability, we track every animal that comes in our doors, how it came in, and how long it was with us, and when it got adopted. If I wanted to extract from our data animals only transferred in from Washoe County Regional Animal Services and back out into our community, yes, that information is available to us. I don't think I've ever focused that specifically on just animals transferred in from Washoe County. We look at all animals that come in, the live release rate of all of those animals as they leave our organization, the length of stay that we have them in our care. But if I needed to, or if that information was important, I could certainly extract that.
I was just curious. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I think Ms. McMahon.
Julie McMahon for the record. I just wanted to, you had in one of your early slides, your help desk and your time of response to need of services, and then your surrender period is about 10 days now. How, I know that for a while it was even months long.
Yes.
So how do you feel like you are doing in this success of shortening those times, because that has translated into owner abandonment issues if the duration is too long for surrender?
Yeah, and we're very sensitive to that. It fluctuates. The short answer is that it fluctuates depending on the time of year. When our organization receives about 1,000 phone calls a day. We know that because we're updating our voicemail system, and so we've been tracking it. Not all of those are to the Animal Help Desk, but I would say the majority of them do come in to the Animal Help Desk. So depending on my staffing levels and the calls that are coming in, there's that delay there. We want to see ourselves get to a point where we're picking up the phone and people don't have to leave a voicemail. I hope that will happen at some point. Again, the time that it takes for that animal to come into us does fluctuate. It could be a couple days. It could be a couple weeks. Oftentimes, we're waiting on information from the individual themselves. Oftentimes, they do have that appointment, but then they're still exploring other options. Okay. I would also say that as it pertains to that period of time, every day we have emergency slots available. Mm-hmm. So even though the median time frame might be 10 days between the time when somebody got us the information and then their appointment, because we do operate on a managed intake model, so we do make those appointments, and so we can prepare our own capacity for care at the organization, knowing how many animals are going to be coming in from the public. But every day we do have emergency slots available. So if someone called and said, I'm being evicted and I will have nowhere for my pet to go in 2 hours, we are able to react to that and help them.
Thank you. And I think that helping just your statement about that it's not a delay necessarily on your end as much as it could be the owner getting their proverbial ducks in a row and deciding exactly what they're going to do.
And sometimes it is our capacity. Mm-hmm. We are trying to manage a pretty incredible number of requests that are coming in from the public. Mm-hmm. At the same time, we're monitoring Cheyenne's capacity, and we're trying to balance those two. In fact, I can say in the last 2 days, I've had 3 separate meetings with my team about the murky world of priorities. Because if we only have 5 dog kennels and we have 5 surrender requests and appointments coming in, and I know that Cheyenne has a number of dogs that are available that need to get transferred out, we're trying to juggle that and prioritize how we get those animals into our organization and meet the needs of those animals.
Yeah. And I have to just say that I feel like for those of us that have been on this board over the last several years, that I feel like there's been a remarkable improvement in the transfers, which I know was a very big sticking point and probably tense at some point. So I just want to say thank you for that, because I think that it does help in the big picture on the Washoe County side as well. So
thank you. I appreciate that recognition.
Yeah. And my last question is that in your kittens, since I'm the invested kitten person on the panel, you documented Good Samaritan surrender kittens, but on any given day, Washoe County posts tons of kittens that are actually transferred to as well.
Yes.
Are those lumped into that surrender number? Is that a completely separate bank?
Yeah, that is separate, and that is a great question, and thank you for pointing that out. Good Samaritan surrenders are community members that find them some way and bring them in all sorts of containers. Typically, those are kittens that will be under 2 pounds. If they are over 2 pounds, they will go to Washoe County Regional Animal Services and typically stay for their stray hold. And so we might get them at 2 pounds, 1 ounce. And so then they will be a transfer in from Animal Services.
Okay. Thank you. And then I just want to say lastly to your foster team and Carly, they work really hard. They're extremely responsive, and they put up with a bunch of, not to say that we're not supportive, but we're also very needy. So I wanted to say.
Speaking as a foster parent.
Speaking as a foster, so I just wanted to also just give props to your
Thank you.
foster team.
Thank you. They deserve it, and I appreciate that.
And let me ask, Mr. Rodriguez, anything from you?
No, I appreciate everything you guys do. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just wanted to follow up on the transfer. I understand that recently there was a new transfer agreement settled or assigned. Is that true?
So it's in the final stages. So the transfer agreement, to just kind of add some historical context, prior to 2023, there wasn't a transfer agreement. We have our PSA, and our organizations work together to collaborate and help the animals. And right after I came on board, I think Cheyenne had already been working on this. We worked on the transfer agreement to finalize it, and it's really just operational. This is how my team, this is the steps they will go through when we identify an animal and transfer it. This is what we do with the paperwork. This is what Cheyenne's team will do. And so it's just working out some of those operational nuances. It is not the overarching agreement, which is our PSA.
Right.
This is just, it's kind of a robust SOP.
You're right. I understand. But so you're saying it's not finalized, because I had understood from Dave Solero that it was, so.
So Dave and his team have been working with my board chair and those of us on the Nevada Humane Society side. I thought it was close to being finalized, and then we recently got some changes and edits, and I think that now that is being reviewed again.
Okay.
So I would call it final stages. I don't know what
I was
Cheyenne
going
would
to
call
ask
it, but.
Director Schul if you had any comments too.
Cheyenne Schull, for the record, my last update from Mr. Solera was that he too also thought it was in final stretch. I think the last round of edits from our perspective were being sent over to the Humane Society.
Okay.
So that was a couple weeks ago.
Well, I do want to make sure, I had thought it would be on this agenda, that we could just be made aware of what the details of it were. But I assume within 3 months, it should be finalized. So could we talk about agendizing that, just informing us about what's been going on? And where maybe you settled, and how it's working. By then, you should have some time under your belt, I guess, under a new protocol.
Yes.
Okay. Is that okay?
Yes, Darlene Bryant for the record. I'm absolutely happy to do that. I don't know that it'll be a new protocol. It's just
or formalized
some edits to to the existing.
Okay, but you said there wasn't any.
Well, we do have an we are using our current transfer agreement, and this was just edits to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I thought you said a few minutes ago you didn't have one, and now you were going to have a formal one.
Prior to 2023,
right.
So we had operated all those years without a formal transfer agreement, and then since 2023, I think October, we have the one that we both agreed upon, and that is what we are currently using. This is just
edits.
It's a living document like anything else, and we're just editing it.
Okay. All right. Any final questions for Darlene Bryant? I'm not hearing any. I'm going to ask, we're almost at the end of our meeting, so I was wondering if you could stick around to the end of our meeting, which will be very shortly. I'd love to just visit with you for a few minutes after.
Of course, yes.
Okay,
Thank
that'd be
you.
great. All right. Well, we're going to close out item 9 and move on to 10, which are actually announcements, requests for information, and requests for future agenda items. And we've heard a few in this meeting. I'm going to just reiterate the ones, or maybe you could, I don't know if you're tracking them, Cheyenne, but one was maybe to future agendize, probably sooner than later, what would be necessary to strengthen the enforcement program, and what we could do as a team to put a package together, and then maybe find a sponsor. If it's not to be Washoe County, maybe another sponsor would be interested. And I think we also just heard, a request for an update on the transfer agreement, the revised one. And then I think earlier there was another request. We had some suggestions. So one of those, for example, was maybe working with the police, well, all law enforcement to get better trained from animal services, more than an hour. I'd love to see that put on an agenda, discussion of maybe a representative from some other, either the sheriff's office or Reno or Sparks PD, on whether they think that's a reasonable idea, you know. We also talked about the role in euthanasia. You know, I'd love a little follow-up on that, if we could, like the role of your department working with others that are responsible for that on accidents with horses, for example, or could be another animal too, you know, that was hit. I'd love to get just a little update maybe in your report about that. Let me ask anyone else, I'm sure we missed something because we have asked for a few things today. Anything we'd like to see? Yes, Mr. Rodriguez? Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of want to piggyback off on your request with strengthening our enforcement with animal control officers. I did hear from the officer speaking that they may be peace officers, but they're not required to. So I'm wondering if there's something that maybe if staff can look at a local level or regional level in our case, if we have the ability to implement that in your request, if we can
Sure.
have that.
No, I love that. We just need to more fully understand the environment in which we're working and the laws in which we're working and what's facilitative, what's holding us back, and then maybe what's not even discussed, you know. So, okay, anything else from anyone? Updates on anything you're looking for? No, still thinking? All right, how about any just general comment on animal things that you'd like to make for the good of the order? Okay. Let me ask Cheyenne, do you have upcoming agenda items you already know that you want to bring us in the next quarter or so?
Madam Chair, Cheyenne for the record, I think I already alluded to the ones that I'm planning to bring to this board. There are some standing ones that I'll have to coordinate with other departments related to the building, the infrastructure of the HVAC system and things like that.
Okay.
So that is, we are tracking those and we will weave those in as the meeting time and agenda allows. But the ones that I mentioned today are the ones that we plan for the next meeting.
Okay. Can you just say what that is?
Sure. We would like to bring you an overview of what we've been working on in relation to disaster preparedness,
Good.
organizing, working on protocols and SOPs, and also external agreements with outside organizations. And we also would like to bring to you a legislative update from this session with an overview of what passed, what did not, and what impacts to our department operationally. And I think that was the conclusion of the things that we wanted to bring at the next meeting.
I mean, that should be a really great meeting if we cover even half of those topics. So, all right. And then under this topic, we also, we just any updates, things that you've experienced or heard about animal-wise? Yeah.
I would like to take this opportunity to thank the quick response. I had the pleasure of doing a ride-along with the Hope team, and to skip a long story, there were some animals that were left, 2 dogs specifically, and I was with law enforcement. It was clear that there was a direct, seamless protocol when that happens, and the response by the officer from Animal Services was prompt, and it was really pretty amazing to observe in terms of even sharing the information, which was important. Do you know who this possible person is who owns the dogs? The law enforcement officer had some information. However, it was somebody that doesn't have a permanent residence, so finding that person is difficult. But really the compassion and care and on both sides, both the law enforcement side and the officer who responded, I think need to be commended, and I wanted to recognize that. So thank you.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you. I'll pass it along.
Yeah, that's great news. Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. So anything else from anyone? Yes, Ms. McMahon.
I think, Julie McMahon for the record, I would like to hear kind of how things are going with the behavioral assessments and the training of the staff and how that's been working with, I know that you guys have your own behavioral teams and it's an ongoing process, I guess is a good way to say it. So I just would like to kind of see where that's gone and how it's working between both NHS and Washoe County.
Okay, perfect. All right, final call. Anyone else? All right. All right, well, that'll wrap up this item. And then we're going to turn our attention to our final public comment. Madam Clerk, anything online or in the room?
There is no request for public comment at this
Okay.
time.
All right. Well, with that, I will declare us adjourned. Thank you so much, everyone.